any of those topics, kindly type it up on your comment section and let us know if you have any concerns regarding this feed. So, to start, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. He currently runs a performance marketing agency called Augment Digital, where they help brands generate a positive and profitable return on their marketing spend through Facebook and Instagram ads. The team manages close to 500,000 US dollars per month in ad spend for clients in the US, Australia, Singapore, and of course in the Philippines. Reinart is also the co founder of agency Rocket Fuel, a consulting agency that helps other agencies build processes, systems, and a team to help them scale. He just started also to venture into local e-commerce with Saiza. Saiza is a startup beauty brand with a vision to help Filipinas feel bold, confident, and empowered in their own skin. So let us learn from Reynard today as he talks about growth hacking. Hi, Reynard. How are you?
Hi. Nice. I'm good.
Hi.
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thanks for
joining us
having me.
this afternoon. We're very honored to be mentored by you. Are
Nice.
you
Thanks.
ready for your talk now?
Yep. I think should be good.
All right, so yeah, take it away. Thank you, Reynard.
All right. So let me share my screen. Right. Share my screen, Joy, or like you guys will share it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Please share your
All right.
screen now. Mm.
Okay. Let me know if you guys see.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Awesome.
So hello everyone. Thanks to Joy for the introduction. Nice to meet everyone here and whoever's watching this video. So yeah. So on this talk, I'll be in this session, I'll be talking about growth hacking in the context of what I do, but at the same time, based on what I learned just recently. All right, so let's just dive right in. So, growth hacking. So, I guess the first question I think everyone might have, or at least people who are newer to this space, is like, what is growth hacking, right? So, to me, I actually had a very different understanding of growth hacking until like 2 weeks ago. So what happened was, for me, what I thought growth hacking was some sort of like tricky way to find like get more customers kind of thing, or like you have to do some hack because it says hack. So for me, I thought it's like, oh, it's like you have to like hack something or do some like shady thing to get more customers. So I never really understood it, and thankfully, I picked up a book like two weeks ago, which is Hacking Growth, and I got this even before I was invited to talk here. So it's a pure coincidence that I got this book, and it's about growth hacking. So from the people who actually started that, the word growth hacking. So I'd recommend anyone watching this video to get this book. But a lot of the things I'll talk about here is basically what I've read here, and as well as my own experience doing growth hacking, quote unquote. All right. So the reason is around Facebook advertising. Right. So a quick intro myself. Like Joy mentioned, I run a Facebook advertising agency called Augment Digital. So we've been at it for about 2 years. Our team's about 16, mostly in Cebu, and we manage around 500K to 700K USD in ad spend per month for clients in the US, Australia. We have a lot of experience running ads, but actually, when I started reading the book, I learned that growth hacking really isn't all about running ads and like trying to drive acquisition, which is very interesting to me. So I'd like to share like what I learned there as well. So strategies that's worked for us. So yeah, so what is growth hacking? So according to Google, growth hacking is a relatively new field in marketing focused on growth. It started in relation to early stage startups who needed massive growth in a short time with small budgets, right? So the key here is that growth hacking is about finding ways to grow without spending a lot. So
So
that
that
already
really
takes
takes
out
out
Facebook
Facebook
ads
ads
because
because
it's
it's
expensive
expensive
sometimes
sometimes
to
to run.
run, right? So when I was reading this book, I was like, oh, so there's more to growth than just like running advertising, right? So what I really took away as I started going into the topic a bit deeper is that growth hacking, right? It's not really about hacking or like, like finding a tricky way to get users. It's really just about a combination of the different disciplines in your team and working together to find ways to grow. So that really like put a light bulb on my in my head because like for me, growth is really all about marketing, I thought, right? Marketing and advertising. But when I dug deeper into the topic, I realized that it's not. You can find growth by combining things, combining different departments in your startup, like from the data side, the marketing side, and the engineering side, right? So what really stood out to me was this definition was that it's building features into your product or service that allow your users to grow your product for you. Meaning allows your users to find more users for you. So that stood out to me because I never really saw it that way. And here's a few examples that really exemplify this. So I think the most used example when it comes to growth hacking is the Dropbox example, right? It's a very well known story where when Dropbox started, they were really struggling to find more growth outside like their niche circle, meaning like a lot of people who understood tech understood the value of Dropbox because like cloud sharing, things like that, it was very new back then, but they had a hard time trying to get out of that initial niche circle, right? So what they did, and which is now pretty standard in almost all companies, is they built a referral program where people could unlock storage in their Dropbox account for inviting new users, right? So back then, this one now everyone does this, but back then that was like such a huge finding, right? That you can actually combine the what you call this the expertise of your engineering team, meaning finding a way to share to unlock access to more storage with your marketing team, meaning inviting more users, right? So that marriage of disciplines came out and created their referral program, which really helped them scale up. Right. Another example is Facebook's language adoption. So there was a point in Facebook's time where they were already at like a million something or 70 million users, and they had a hard time going out of the North American market, right? So most people would think this is like a marketing problem where you'd have to find like you'd have to staff marketing managers in other countries to really push growth there. But what Facebook did instead is that it built a way for users to actually suggest the translations inside their app, meaning it was easier for other markets to kind of like adopt the product because the users themselves were saying, oh, this button should be in should be it should be translated to this in this language, right? So that allowed them to grow without actually putting any marketing effort. And going back to the definition of growth hacking, it's again finding ways for you to grow without spending a lot on marketing or ads, right? And that really, again, going back to it, comes from the marriage of different disciplines and not just like, oh, marketing is going to take care of it, right? And I think like if you're watching this video, you're having your marketing person watch this, or like your partner who's focused on marketing, I highly recommend that you have your other side, if you have a CTO or whatever it is, also watch like try to understand the process of growth hacking because it definitely is a collaborative effort across different disciplines, and it isn't only like a marketing thing. All right, another example is YouTube. So actually YouTube, when it started, that right now it's again very very standard, everyone does it, you can embed the video right in your website. But back then for YouTube, that was for the video industry online, that was completely new, being able to embed a YouTube video into a website that allowed for viral growth because people will see that video on your website and they're like, oh, where is it hosted? It's unhosted on YouTube. So they click on YouTube, they go to YouTube, they see recommended videos, and they're sucked into the ecosystem, right? So another way to create growth, to create more users without paying for marketing, right? And lastly, this quick example from Hotmail, which is again very very standard these days, but back then Hotmail was one of the first to put like PS, this was sent through Hotmail. So even just that little addition at the email level was able to spur some of their growth early on, right? So again, going back to it, these examples all show that growth hacking is about finding a cost-effective way to grow, and it's also multidisciplinary. Meaning, again, I want to stress this really hard. It's not only about marketing, because that was the biggest thing that stood out to me. Maybe for some of you already understand this, but me, I was like, oh, that's completely new, right? So as you can see, these efforts didn't take millions in ad dollars. It didn't take a crazy marketing stunt. It really was about coming together as a team, understanding how your users use the product, what they value about the product, understanding what their behaviors are as they use your product or service to create more growth and acquire more users, right? And there is a growth hacking process of like, analyzing the data, then ideating, prioritizing, and then testing. I think people are very familiar to this, this process, lean startup and things like that. But as you can see, where it always starts is really in that analyze piece, right? And I want to stress that out because I know a lot of the startups in this batch are newer, are more in the validation stage, if I'm right. So it's really important for my like from my understanding and like from my experience that you really nail down this analyze piece, right? And that really, starts by having really good processes to kind of like develop your customer and understand who you're going after and what their problems are, right? Because it's hard to ideate ideas and things like that without having a good set of a good understanding of who you're going after, right? So your number one goal, if you're a new startup, is to really identify the market you feel passionate of serving, and then understanding what their problems are and where can you solve them where it's profitable for you, right? And the only way you can really use all these really flashy growth hacking techniques is if you have the data, and to have data you need to have customers, right? So number one priority if you're new is to focus on your customer, right? I'm sure product market fit, things like that have been covered in other talks, so I'll just focus more on the growth side of it. Okay. So when you're starting out with a limited budget, I'm personally like in the camp, like what you're gonna focus on. I'm personally in the camp that growth hacking really isn't about scale and A/B testing, like the button color of your website, things like that. For me, growth hacking really is about falling in love with your customer, serving them to the best of your ability, and looking for ways in your product or service to turn that one customer into an evangelist that will give you two more. Right? Again, growth hacking is about allowing your customers to spread the word for you, or acquire customers for you without you spending much, right? And that really again goes back to you understanding who you're serving, right? So you need to find ways to implement features in your product or service so that these customers can share it and then help you acquire more users. And when you get those two new users, your goal is to make sure those two new users get you four more, and so forth, right? The cycle will continue from there. So again, although you can test all these like crazy ideas about like how to like hack growth and things like that, it all will go back to like you understand your customer, because that's where the analyze part comes in, and that's where your ideas will come into how are you gonna create features or like services within your product that will allow your startup to grow without spending so much on marketing, right? And again, you have to understand where you're at. Imagine if you like place a referral program the way Dropbox did, right? It might not, if you're super new, it might not make that sense, because you imagine if you only have 10 customers to start, you put a referral program, it might not be the right strategy for you to kind of go after, because that's for like a bigger brand that has a lot more starting kind of customer base to do that with, right? So you have to be understanding of where you're at. And really, for me, in my experience, starting like a few companies and like working with brands as well who are still starting, what really differentiates those that end up growing really quickly is having a real connection with their customers, right? A real connection, and really trying to understand and not see them just as data and like, oh, you're number one, you're number two. It's really like, oh, you're John, you're Sally. I'm gonna help you solve your problems, right? So you know that's really where I want to go back to, which is, if you want to be a growth hacker and you have like zero customers, or you have a limited budget, you have one job, and it's like to fall in love with your customer and even do things that don't really scale, right? So for me, that's just like my personal opinion is like you should really focus on things that don't scale yet, so you can really understand the problem and do your best to solve it through your product, right? So another question that other people have is like, who does this inside the organization, right? I assume like if you're a startup, you have some founding partners, maybe you're four, you're five. Who's in charge of this? So the answer is, if you already kind of like followed through, is that growth hacking again is just not about one person, right? Although you'll have someone who will lead the effort, it's most likely going to be your CEO or something. It's a collaborate effort to between different disciplines, right? It's about multiple people in different disciplines, from marketing, engineering, tech, or whatever, looking at the problem in different ways to find a unique solution to create that growth, right? So because if you only have like a marketer looking at your problem, they might come up like with an ad campaign or some costly solution that require like some external factors coming in, right, as a solution to achieve growth, right? And if you only have your engineer do it, they might come up with features they think is important, but they will never know if users actually need it or uses it in a way that will create more growth, right? So combining the discipline of marketing, engineering, data is really how you're going to identify what solutions can be embedded in your product to create growth and acquire more customers and users for your startup, right? And if you're starting out, that might even mean you have to do some manual heavy work to enable that very first customer you have, or very first 10 customers you have, to really spread the word, right? And as that number grows, those things that you do manually, you can maybe even bake into the product's actual features, right? But I'm just in the camp that you really need to find people to talk to. It can be your best friend or like whoever it is to start. You just need to get feedback really quick. So then you can start the process of understanding how can I create more growth from the market I want to serve. All right. So that's pretty much how I see it in terms of growth marketing. So I guess a question that some of you might have is like, well, how does this look like in real life? Like, what are some practical examples? I know the Dropboxes of the world have done this, the Facebooks of the world have done this. So I myself have not run a software startup in any sense. So my examples are more down to earth, like in e-commerce and services, because that's what I have experience in. Like I run an agency. But again, just to remind you, the goal of growth hacking is to find potential avenues of growth that's already baked in your product and service. Okay. So the example I'll give is around our agency and like how we have kind of leveraged the idea of growth hacking accidentally because I didn't even know of the concept until like 2 weeks ago. So at our agency, we have an entire team of graphic designers, video editors, copywriters, and media buyers, those who actually run the ads. We produce a ton of ads for our clients because on Facebook, leeway a bit, on Facebook, what's really going to help you win and like, do really well on Facebook is your creative. So that's where we focus on. Most agencies that run Facebook ads don't do any creative work. They let the clients do it for us. We do it for them because that's really a key to success. So I believe even last week, according to the numbers here, we've made around 120 ads. So the question we had a few months ago was like, how can we leverage the work already being done, which you can see as like a feature in our agency? Again, we're an agency, we're not a software or an app, but that's a feature, right? Like being able to produce ads. How can we leverage that work already being done to help our marketing, right? And we can't outright show all our client work because confidentiality and things like that. So we thought about it as a team, and we found a solution that after our marketing and fulfillment team came together. So the idea that came up in that meeting was, what if we turned, let me switch aside here. What if we turned our best performing ads into easily downloadable templates on our website, right? All we need to do is actually add a few hours or even minutes of work on top of making the actual ad to generalize it or abstract it so it obscures any client branding and retains the elements that make it work. So as you can see here in this example, this is a client ad example. We already took out branding actually. Then we just have our team kind of understand like what makes it work, like what elements are added, what pieces of copy are there, and it takes like a few minutes more of their time to turn it into a template that we can now use to go out to the market and like share, right, to generate leads, right? And in terms of our competition, and this came from our marketing side and understanding of the market, is that most of our competitors don't really share their creatives because that's not their specialty. They focus on the ad side. And most people who show templates don't have data to back it, right? With us, we know exactly how much money did we spend on this, how many purchases and customers came out of this from our clients. So we can say, hey, this ad spent like $50,000 and generated 500 in sales, right, for our clients. That's why it works. So it makes us stand out a bit because we are able to show that data unlike others, right? And the only way we're able to do that is because our marketing team and our fulfillment team came together and thought about what can we do together to spur more growth, right? So this is now what has become AdFlux inside our agency, where it's actually a creative template library at Augment Digital. So as you can see, the idea didn't come from the marketing team alone, the fulfillment team alone. It was a marriage of both disciplines, right? And now we have like this machine that allows people to opt into our list and things like that, and we can nurture them, and hopefully they become clients down the line. So again, we did not do any marketing. We did not spend on ads to create this, but now we have like a lead generation machine that's just running in the background because from the work that's already being done, right? So what's the principle I want you guys to take out of this? So I shared this story because I think a lot of people think that growth hacking is like some really abstract idea that requires some really crazy tech skills to pull off, when really it can be applied everywhere in any industry, any sort of product or even a service, right? Even to non-tech offers like ours, there are ways to think about growth hacking and where what can you do as a team, right? That's really the biggest point, right? The idea I want you to take away is that growth hacking is really about combining multiple disciplines and finding unique solutions to allow your customers or your product acquire new customers on its own long term, right? And although I talk about a lot about acquisition, growth hacking actually can be applied in like three other stages of the customer kind of journey. So there's, of course, you acquire your customer. You have to activate them, make sure they use your product or your service. You have to make sure they stay. So your retention, and lastly is your monetizing them. Right, that's the usual thing in the tech. But I just wanted to focus on acquisition because I know most of the startups in this batch are still starting out. And for me, your number one goal when you're starting out really is to be acquiring customers. And if you're not acquiring customers, acquiring insights about your market so you can use that again to go through that growth hacking process. All right. So that's growth hacking. So going back to our experience, which is mostly Facebook ads and things like that, what would I recommend for companies that's just starting out and looking to find that that insight and do it quickly? So for us, what we do is a market discovery campaign. It's not really a growth hack because this is purely marketing in a sense, but it is a way to do customer development fast, and we've done this for a lot of our clients, right? Again, the goal when you start is to focus on the customer and focus on the problem, right? Fall in love with that problem and do whatever it takes to solve it, and of course, making sure it's profitable for you, right? So for us, how we see it is your first goal is to identify what that problem is, clearly stated by your market. Like, how does your market say their issues and their problems? Not like how you think they will say it, but how they actually say it, right? So this is like textbook customer development, but we do it in a way that's a bit quicker. So for us, we do it again through this market discovery campaign. And actually, we sell this as a service at Augment Digital, but I'm going to give it to you all for free. Feel free to take it and do whatever you want with it. So it's the same campaign we've used in that brand that Joy mentioned we run as well, which is Siza. That's helped us get this amount of market insight from from the brand. So you can see we're in a giveaway. I'll share a bit more behind the methodology, but you can see we have around 5,000 responses of people telling us what's their biggest frustration with their lashes because it's a lash product. So we're able to really nail down what specific words people are using, and we use that data to understand how to best position our marketing. And if we had a more tech product or something, we can then position our product as well, right? So how do you build something like this for your startup, for your brand? So it's very, very simple. What we do is run ads to a giveaway of the product or service. And for people to join the giveaway, they fill out a survey, right? Not so. That's it. There isn't really much to it. But a lot of people don't want to do this because they're like, oh, what will a survey give me? And things like that. Again, your goal is to understand how people talk about your product or their problems. So you can really craft features and you can craft your product in a way that solves them. And at the same time, you can figure out how you can build in ways for your users to also share about your product. Right. And it can be different really depending on your product. That's why you can't just copy paste like Dropbox model. You can copy paste like Facebook's model. You need to understand how your user specifically approach that problem and how you're going to solve it, right? And of course, there's a lot of nuance in terms of like execution, like what to give away. Usually we recommend giving away your product because that means whoever joins is, wants the product you kind of already have an idea about, so that it's not, you don't get totally unqualified people. And the reason why we put the survey is because you also don't want people who are just like freebie seekers who will never buy your product. So what we see happens when you add the survey is that people actually take the time to write out their pains and they actually feel attached to the brand, and they feel like, oh, these people are really out here to help me, right? It's a very interesting thing to see. And again, although you can like run a survey, go out there and like give out pamphlets or something like that, the idea here is you want to incentivize people so you can get that data fast. At the same time, the other added benefit of this is you have like a list of leads, like emails or a messenger list or whatever that you can market to in the future, right? In our case, in Siza, what we've done is we've done this giveaway, we've created a list, and now we're gonna launch in like a week or so. So we're gonna blast out a message to everyone, kind of thing, right? So giveaways are a good way to generate viral word of mouth, and with a survey in the back, you're able to qualify some of these responses, right? And for some people, and we've done this with other brands we've worked with, where if they're really early on, we actually ask a question in the survey. We ask them, "Would you like to hop on a 15-minute call with us to talk about your problems?" Right? So we go that far of actually calling up people and asking them, "What's your problems like in your day to day? How do you go? Like, why is this a problem to you? Why does it matter to you?" And again, if you're really in this for the long term and you really care about the people you're serving, that should be something you're willing to do, right? Do things that don't scale. That's one of my things I really believe in, right? So it's a lot of work. It might sound like a lot of work, but to me, business really is all about real relationships and real people. Sometimes we get so pulled into the data, like all these metrics, charts, and numbers, but we forget that in this game that we're playing here, we're serving real people with real problems, aching to find a solution to them, right? And that's what you have to remember. Like with any marketing effort, and especially with growth hacking, when you look at that analyze, ideate, test, and prioritize process, that analyze piece really starts with understanding your users, their behavior, and it's not just all about data. And when you have that piece, the next steps are pretty much easier because now you know how to build your product in a way that will align with those behaviors so your users themselves will share it, and that's how you can create growth without having to spend like a million on ads, right? So that's what growth hacking is. If you have any questions, I think I can answer them later. And yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say.
Wow, thank you very much, Reinart. That
Thanks.
was a lot, and that was very insightful. And we look forward to asking you questions later. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you so much. All right, sige. So let's proceed to the next mentor. Wow, no, there was so much to take in, but it was so insightful, no. It's a good it's a good practice, and I think it's always been highlighted by other mentors in the past that really knowing your customer, really knowing who your target audience is, really knowing who are the people who would most likely buy your product is the most important part of developing a business. In developing a product. So, our next speaker will be talking more about sales and marketing and with a community approach to it. She is actually a tech community builder and she has led and promoted various initiatives for the Philippine tech community. And she volunteers for DevCon Philippines and she helps curate Startup Digest Philippines. Currently, she's the senior manager for market development at Amihan Global Strategies, which is a strategic consulting company that designs and implements digital transformation for ASEAN enterprise companies. She was the executive director for DevCon, a national volunteer organization promoting collaborative growth and competence among developers in the Philippines. And prior to DevCon, Haifa was an iOS developer. She's also a project manager and consultant. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science from Ateneo de Cagayan Xavier University. Let's welcome Haifa Carina. Hi, Miss Haifa. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
everyone. Thanks, Joy, for
Hi.
the intro. So let
Yeah,
me
sure.
just
Thank you.
share
Thank
my
you so much. All
screen.
right, please. All right, please begin po.
Okay. How about this one?
Yes. But all right. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, it's loading. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time this afternoon. So, if earlier Reinhardt was able to share more on growth hacking, for this session naman, we'll more focus on sales and marketing. So, that huge chunk, which is very important in our startups. Pretty much the growth part is really will be focused on sales and marketing. But for this afternoon, we will cover what we call pirate metrics for startup growth. So this one, I believe Joy was already able to share, but pretty much I work. My main role is really for Amihan, so I do sales and marketing, and also partnerships at Amihan Global Strategies. But the most important part really are the community engagements that I do. So I used to run DevCon Philippines. Right now, I am very much involved with the tech community. So tech communities like DevCon, the GDG Philippines, all the other tech communities. I work with them to help grow the tech community here in the country. And also in the startup world, I help create the Startup Digest Philippines. So it's a it's a bi-monthly newsletter of startup events and announcements. So we help spread the word about startup activities here in the country. And finally, I help lead Lean In Circle Women Sales Professionals. So we have this annual by monthly group where we meet monthly to share different share different experiences, techniques, and what are the things that we can help each other grow in our sales careers. So para saan? So who are this for this session? Who are the market or who are the customers? So I've read the profiles of the different startups we have here. So there are about 9, and a lot of you guys are still early stage startups. So this one I tried to customize the topic a bit that it will be more relevant for you. So assumptions here would be that a lot of you will be still on idea stage or have done a little customer validation. Some of you already has an MVP, or what we call minimum viable product, or you already have some sort of prototype. And the important thing here is that you want to accelerate your sales and marketing initiatives. So, objectives for this session. So, one, we'll walk you through the pirate metrics for startup growth. Next one is we'll recognize successful strategies and case studies. So it's not just theoretical. We can see what are the different examples that we can use. And finally, take a note, grab pen and papers, and or maybe use your notes, because we will identify what are the growth ideas relevant for your startup. All right. So what exactly is the pirate metrics for startup growth? So if anyone is familiar with this guy, this is Dave McClure, founder of 500 Startups. So if any one of you has also attended Geeks on a Beach for the past a few years ago, he is one of the mentors in that event as well, and he introduced this framework, this 5-step framework with in 2007, so 13 years ago. So we'll start with so here so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 6 steps pala siya. So first one is we start with awareness. So this is when we visit the website or visit their product page. And then the next step is really the acquisition. So this is when you sign up, or what is your first engagement with your customer. The third part is activation, or reach the wow moment. This is when your customer or your user realizes the value of your product or your startup. The next one is retention. So this is when you already know the value of the startup, you come back and try it again and use it again. And next one is really the revenue. So this is when you already sell, upsell or cross sell, and finally referral. So I'll share one example, which is I believe everyone can relate to, which is Netflix. So one example we can use, so recently a lot of us are using Netflix already. So one example, let's say for me, in my experience, the first time I learned about Netflix was through Facebook. So I just saw it in one of my friends posted about Netflix. I don't have an account yet. Then so that's how I found out about Netflix. So I checked it out. I checked the website. Oh, okay, so Netflix is a streaming service. Okay, that's how I became aware of what Netflix is. Now, acquisition. Since I was curious on what it is, and they provide 30-day trial, so I signed up. Okay, so that was the acquisition part of my journey. So I signed up, gave my details, and started my 30-day trial. And activation was when I watched my first movie. So since I already watched the first movie, I saw, wow, they have a lot of movies in their library. And when I watched it, it was so fast, there was no lag time, and I didn't have to download anything. So that was, oh, this is a really good one. And then I checked out, there are a lot of other movies available similar to what I have watched. So they did this recommendation engine. So I see the value in that one. So that was my first experience. That was my activation part. And then retention was when, so this was, let's say, Saturday. And then I came back Monday because I wanted to watch another movie again. So I used the service again. So that is retention. That's when we come back to use the product again. And finally, my 30-day trial ended. That's when I know, okay, I will be using this product, so I will register, I will subscribe and start paying. And then the referral is when I watch a movie that I really like and I wanted to share it to my friends. Hey, have you seen this movie on Netflix? That's also when people also found out about Netflix. So, babalik na naman siya dun sa awareness na side. So, that is one example of the startup growth from awareness to referral. So, later on, we'll share more on what are the successful strategies and case studies that we can cover that will also be relevant for your startup. So take note of this one as we go through the slides. So next one, oh, so here, one strategy, and it's very important in a way that for a lot of the startups in Startup Island right now, a lot of you still don't have a final product yet, right? So the question would be, can I start our marketing initiatives or sales or even though our product is not yet available? So think of it this way, whenever you already have your product, I mean, you have your idea of a product, you know what it is, you know who your customers are, you're able to identify who the personas of your customers, right? Ask yourself, how else can you add value to this type of people that you want to market or you want to target? So, this is when content marketing comes in the picture. So, what are the examples of that one? So the answer essentially is yes, you can already start your marketing even though you don't have the product yet. So examples, what are the examples for content marketing? So here you try to add value outside of the product you are already in, as long as it's still the same audience. So what are the examples? So examples would be blogs or articles. So what are the examples of these? So let's say if you're in, I saw one startup in there is a tool for project management. So you try to create products or share content that is related for project managers. What are the value added articles that you can share to these markets? And then at the end of it, you can then, so these are, let's say, tips for project managers. And then at the end of your article, you can then share about your tool. These are the tools available. Is this something that will be valuable for you? So those kinds of strategies. Next one would be videos. So short videos are very relevant today, because especially if it's a 3 minute, 6 minute video, because it's short. And you have to be very strategic as well because it's easily digestible, these types of videos. It's just that effort nga lang siya. Next one would be your infographics. So these are more well-researched content, but these are easily shareable, and it's really good for you because whenever someone researches on a certain topic which is really you're really good at, or it's something that it's in the space that you're playing at, and then you will be one of the thought leaders as well in those areas. So I'll share with you some case studies here. First one I wanted to share is coins sorry, coins.ph. So when coins started, they were, I'm not sure when they started. I think it was early 2013 at that. Yeah. So when they started, they did a lot of partnerships. But one of the things that I that recently struck me is that when you try to search about financial education, many articles that's showing up in Google are from coins.ph. So as you can see, they have a lot of articles here that is not exactly related to either just mainly Bitcoin. So they have other articles here like credit card straight payments versus installation. It's more on financial education really. So how to apply for credit card online. So they have a lot of content that it's not necessarily related, or it's more targeted towards the audience that they wanted to reach out to. So other what are the other things that you can add value to your target audience that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to use your products or dependent to use your product. So that's the idea. Next one is HubSpot. So if you're a marketing person, you have probably encountered content from HubSpot. It's either from the videos or the articles because they make a lot of them. So these are very helpful ways for you to learn. So if you wanted to grow your marketing skills, your career, HubSpot is one of the go-to resource for it. And HubSpot is really doing a great job in leveraging content to increase their traffic, their sales, because they create valuable information that's not necessarily dependent on creating their or in using their platform. So for content marketing, so those are just two of the examples no, of how you can leverage content marketing, even though your product is not yet available. So you can already start creating it and find ways and find on explore and brainstorm what are the things that you can add value to your customers. So here's just in the pirate metrics, content marketing covers awareness and acquisition. So usually when you try, let's say you created a blog, and then let's say that's one example will be the project manager startup that we have. So you created tips for project managers, and then at the end of your article you shared about this tool is existing for project managers. So you provide a link, and now you're able to let them go to the website that you have. So that's awareness. They already know about the tool now. And then you were able to convince them to create an account. Let's say you have a 30-day trial, or you can create an account for you could encourage or convince them to create an account. Then you can already have that acquisition part. So you already covered two of the steps in the customer journey. So one quote that I really like is that traditional marketing talks at people, right? So it's just one way, but content marketing talks with them. The reason why is that when you post, when you provide content, let's say the blog post, you can see the comments, right? And also always be encouraging, engage with your customers whenever you try to create content. So for videos, you can see the comments for in ayan. So and also let's say in your website, you can also ask them for feedback through contests or forms, those kinds of things. I think Reinhardt also mentioned about surveys earlier. So that's one of the things that you can do. So now on to our activity. So for the startups in the call right now, I would like you to think and identify. I'll give you about a minute. So try to identify based on the things that we've shared earlier. Can you identify what are the three content marketing ideas applicable to your startup? So there could be many other types of contents that you could do. Just try to identify three that would be applicable to your startup. It's okay if you don't have the product available yet. It's not yet mature yet. It's not yet available. It's just an idea. You just validated your idea. That's fine. What are the things that you can add value to your potential customers outside of your product? So try to identify this one, and also in your pitching practice after this session, you can also try to incorporate them already as your next step. All right. So for the next one is really leverage partnerships. This is one of the things that I really feel that it's not being highlighted much, but it's very important, especially when you're still starting out. The reason why, when you're still starting out, you don't know a lot of people in the space yet. You don't know where to find your customers. So one of the things that you can really leverage is who are the people. So you already know your customers. I mean, you already know the types of customers you are looking for, right? For example, in the case of, for example, I wanted to target developers or IT folks. So if I want to reach out to the IT folks or to the developers, how can I reach out to them if I don't know anyone in that space yet? So one of the things that I can do is partner with the different communities, existing communities that are already active and has a lot of reach already with the developers. So that's just one of the things. And similarly, if you're let's say if you're targeting certain types of people, find what are the organizations, what are the groups. Let's say Facebook groups has a lot of them. What are the groups? Where do our target audience hang out? So try to partner with the different organizations or establishments where they go to, and then try to um, build partnerships with them, and it has to be a win-win situation. So here oh yeah so here are the things that covers the pirate metrics when we say partnership. So it covers awareness, because when you try, for example, you do a partnership campaign. So since it's a partnership campaign, whenever your partner tries to market something, you're already part of it. So people get to know, or are aware that you already exist. And if you can convince them to sign up for your product or for your website, you can already do the acquisition. And then if the partnership is mature enough or it's really something that's solid enough, you can already start generating revenue and, of course, referral if it's a cross sell partnership of some sort. So, here I have one quote here from Bill Gates who said, "Our success has really been based on partnerships from the very beginning." So, if Microsoft grew it through partnerships, this is something that we can say that this is really effective. So I've seen a lot of these since when I was running DevCon. We were very heavy in partnerships and we partner a lot with startups as well because that's when we know that we are helping the different startups in the ecosystem as well. So they provide value, DevCon provides reach. So, but it has to be something that's also very valuable. So I'll share with you some examples here. So for one example here is bit coins.ph. So when they were still starting out, they didn't have a lot of reach in the country. So they started partnering. So one of the partners was really was us, DevCon, and what they wanted to do was reach out to the different developers. Bitcoin then wasn't it was new, so you had to explain what is big Bitcoin exactly. So they wanted to reach out to the different developers. And from there on, we partnered with different events wherein we gave them the reach. And then at the same time, for us, for the developers that we had, they were more curious on what exactly is Bitcoin and how can we use that. So more on, we provided them the insight, and then coins.ph provided credits whenever they sign up. So it was more on a win-win situation as well. Another example would be the company Cebu and other co-working spaces actually. So the value they provide, they offer for partnerships is they can provide the space. So in return, for different partners, what they can provide is, let's say, whenever they do events, the company can provide venue, and then what can the company get from that partnership? So they can provide potential clients, or they can provide different types of other revenues. So those kinds of things. And then next example is AWS. So AWS wanted to reach out to different IT companies as well. So they tried to provide free credits in return for marketing exposure. So those are just some of the partnership case studies and the initiatives that you can use in your own startup. So activity right now, since you know that you already have an idea who your target customers are, where they might hang out, what are they like. So try to identify what are the partnership ideas applicable to your startup. So let's say if you're targeting for retail, maybe you could partner with malls or some sort of, or those kinds of things. So try to identify what are the three partnership ideas applicable to your startups. And then again, later on during your pitching, you could incorporate some of these ideas as your next step as well. And also, it doesn't rely that you need to have, or you need to already have a product available for this one for your partnership to start. You can already start the conversation even though you don't have the product yet. So even though it's just an idea or you still have an MVP, that's totally fine. As long as you already have an idea that, okay, these are the potential partnerships that we can already start leveraging. All right. So next one is give free trial or service. The reason this is also one of the strategies that really work is that you already provide value to your customers even though they're not yet paying. So it's more of a teaser of some sort. So examples would be Spotify, Canva, and Netflix. So here, I believe everyone is already using Spotify. Spotify is free, but it contains a lot of ads, and I think you can skip to the next song, I think, if you're not on paid service. So it's still, you already you see the value in it, but there are a lot of ads, and there are features that you really cannot use. So that's for Spotify. That's how they executed it. Next one is Canva. So how does Canva provide? They provide free basic service, so you can design all of those things. But there are items or there are images or features that you cannot use if you don't pay for it. So more on add-on. So it's still subscription. I They have coupons and I think they also have subscription, but they still provide free basic services. So that's how Canva uses it. And Netflix naman, they provide you 30-day free trial. So those are some of the key things that you can use. Think of it, how can you, these are the different types of free trial or service available and are successful and is being used by other companies worldwide. What could be what could be something that would be relevant to your startup? So for this part, which is to give free trial or service, it covers the following. So it's your acquisition. So whenever you have, let's say, when someone started their free trial, you already acquired them. Same with our Netflix example earlier. And then activation. So whenever you provide free trial, there's a good chance, as long as your product is really good and provides value, there's a good chance that you are able to help them realize the value of your product. Okay, so next activity would be I think some of you already have an idea on this one. So try to identify what are the three free trial or service ideas applicable to your startup. So one of the things pala I read earlier or last night was that, let's say if you have a product, it's a platform, and then you have around 10 types of features that you wanted to be built in, and then you wanted to make it, you want to provide free service and you wanted to provide the 5 features for free. And then the challenge there is really more on, for some, one person shared that for those 10 services and they provided the 5 features for free, and yet those 5 features weren't exactly bringing value. Apparently there's one feature that's lacking or it's not that providing value. So you have to find ways through feedback that what are the features that are more valuable to your customers, even though it's just basic, and what are the things that you can add value by providing more premium services. So those kinds of things you have to do trial and error. As what Reinhardt said, it has to be data driven as well. So you have to you have to see what are the changes, what are their feedback, what are the behaviors of the people, so you can make data driven decisions. Ayan. So here's an activity, and also you can also use this one in your pitching and incorporate it later on as your next step. And finally, the referral marketing. This one, Reinhardt also mentioned in the first talk earlier about Dropbox. This is very important because this is when we know that a platform or a product is really working. So case studies that we have, so one nga, si Dropbox. So whenever you refer someone, you get additional 500 MB. For PayPal naman, especially during that time when they were still starting, you earn $10 per referral. And then during that time, when Uber was still here, when they were still starting, it was huge because when they started out, the referral code that you're able to share, it gives you 1,000 credits. So imagine it, that's about 5 taxi rides na din. So that was huge. So I really, during my experience, I really wanted to use the platform. It was easy to use, and also I get to have free rides as well. So these are just examples of referral marketing. And what does this cover in the pirate metrics? So you get to have, actually, referral marketing is here. But then since you try to refer, you try to onboard another person, right? So you get to make that person aware that the service exists. Now, it goes back to visit the website or product. So it covers these 2 steps. So for referral marketing, this we have one quote from Jeff Bezos. So if you build a great experience, customers tell each other about that. Word of mouth is very powerful. So I believe this is also very relevant to the Netflix example that we shared earlier. So now, activity would be identify 3 referral marketing ideas applicable to your startup. So every platform, every product is different, but right now just try to be as creative as you can. Try to have any different ideas that you have that might be applicable to your startup. After all, later on, you will still evaluate and see what works and what doesn't work. And finally, so those are the some of the things, right? So we have around four strategies, and we also share different use case studies. So we have the content marketing. We also have the use of free use tools. We also have referral marketing, and the thing is, you have different ideas already on how to use them. You know your target customers, but the thing here is you just have the ideas. The most important thing really is acting on it. So here's one of the things. I've been reading this book. I'm not yet done with it, but what I really like is that Darren Hardy said, success doesn't come from doing extraordinarily difficult things. It's doing simple things consistently. So this also works whenever we try different things, right? It doesn't have to be really huge. You just have to start with something small, baby steps, and then you will see what works, you will see what doesn't work, and then change, adapt accordingly. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And if you have any questions, I believe we have a Q&A session later on. So if you have any questions, you can just email me at haifa@devcon.ph. And on social media, I'm Haifa Carina everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Haifa. Wow. It was really a good session, no? Like if we take all these into consideration, a lot of these things are applicable now, either when you're trying to hack growth, and if you're trying to market and sell your product. So today we don't have questions actually for our mentors, but I'll go right ahead and introduce the panel, and then we'll wait for the questions, of course. So today we have two Fireside mentors who are joining us. Dave Overton of SIMF. Hi, Dave. How are you? It's nice to see you
I'm good.
again.
How are you? You too?
Doing great. Doing really, really great. So Dave is actually the founder of SIMF, and he's done a lot of work for the Cebu startup community, and in fact, he's helped Tina Amper of Tech Talks in putting together geeks on a beach, and it was such a good time. And Dave, right now he's managing. How many are you now in your company, Dave? At SIMF?
Last I checked, we're about 39 full-time employees. Yeah.
Wow. Good job. So one mentee remarked here, "Go up, Bohol." Yeah. And I think you might have met Dave there, Zion. So hi, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Um, so our second Fireside mentor is Grace Granlund. Hi, Miss Grace. Are you on the chat? Or are you on the call? Wala pa. All right, sige. So Miss Grace will join us shortly. Miss Grace is one of our mentors ever since we also started, like Dave. Um, and her specialty is in sales and also in marketing. So this will be such a good panel for her to join. All right, sige. So there are no more questions from our audience, which means that we can go right ahead to our intimate fireside discussion with just the mentees. All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for those who are watching us at home. We are really thankful that you chose to spend your weekend with us. And yeah, we hope you have a wonderful time. And we hope you learned a lot about sales and marketing, and especially about growth hacking. Growing doesn't have to be that expensive, but you just really have to learn more and get more data about your customers and about the problem that you are trying to address through your product. So I think that's it. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you on our next session, which is this Tuesday. and it'll be about accounting, tax, and IP. All those really technical, scary stuff that startups should really pay attention to. All right, so thank you again in behalf of Startup Island PH, Department of Trade and Industry, Cebu Region 7, and yeah, actually Region 7. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.